We're streaming.
Preparing to live stream the meeting.
Okay.
Usually Zoom will pop up and say that we're going live, and you have to say
Yep.
okay.
Yep. And we're recording as well, right?
So it goes on to YouTube.
It's recorded on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, another minute for this meeting. Second here.
Okay, just let me know when you want to start after past, and we'll get going.
It's good.
Yeah, I just have to share it to our stuff so people.
She wants to make sure it gets on Facebook too, so they know where the links are.
We'll be famous.
Try to do our due diligence as best we can.
Good. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Okay, you guys can go.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, thanks. I will kick off, but before I call the meeting to order, I just wanted to do a bit of an introduction because I'm not the normal face of council for White Sands. My name's Ian McCormack. I'm the official administrator appointed by the minister for the period between when council lost quorum and when a by-election happens and new members are sworn in. So my role is to act as council during this period, but my role is not to make significant policy decisions, but rather to set the table for the new council when they regain quorum so that they can make the policy decisions that affect people who live in White Sands. We'll run the meeting as we would the normal council meeting in the same meeting procedure bylaw. So it may seem a little bit peculiar just the way things are going to run, but it follows the bylaw and it follows the act. So with that, I will in fact call the meeting to order. We are at 9:31. And we will proceed with the agenda, or at least was made available to people in advance. I understand, Madam CAO, there are a couple of things we wanted to change to the agenda. I'll turn it over to you. Just what would you like to change to agenda under item 2?
I would like to have some additions to the agenda of a 10.5, which would be the bank rec for July 31st, 2024. And
Okay.
and then I would like to add a 7.2, the Municipal Affairs LGFF Capital and Operating Grant MOA.
Thank you. What's your justification for adding these kind of at the last minute?
Justification is based on the procedural bylaw 223 sections E and F, which is, I feel these are emergent because if we don't get these things in, the bank rec shows where our financials are as of July 31st. And the municipal government MOA memorandum of agreement is if we don't get this signed off, we do not receive the funds.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. Are there any other additions to the agenda or changes to the agenda?
None.
None. I will make a motion then to approve the agenda as amended. And as council, I will pass that. I will pass that motion as well. In the agenda, next item up on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from June the 12th. Regular council meeting minutes were provided as part of the initial package of meetings, so anybody who was interested and council can certainly read them. I have read them, but of course was not there. To the CAO, is there anything that you would see that it reads incorrectly at all before we consider those minutes?
Nothing that I could find.
Thank you very much. Okay, with that in mind then, I will make a motion to approve the regular council meeting minutes of June the 12th as presented. I will also pass that motion as well. Next up on the agenda, under our procedure bylaw, are public hearings, delegations, bylaws, and policies. There's nothing on the agenda to deal with any of those or that requires input on any of those, so we will move on into the new business. The first item of business is to reconstitute the quorum for council, and that is being done through nomination day, through the nomination day. The Local Authorities Election Act has requirements for summer villages and nomination periods, nomination days, and voting. It also has requirements for absence or for special ballots and or for advance polls as well. Madam CEO, you have provided us, council, with some information here in a request for decision on the upcoming by-election. Would you like to comment on this at all beyond maybe what's in the request for decision, so we can get that on the record?
Yes, after further review of the last by-election and taking a look at the balance count and attendance, that the special ballots would have been about 1/4 of the voters did supply in their ballots through that special ballots mailout, and I cannot give you data on whether the prior to the election, the advance vote, how many came out to vote, so I could not give you data on that.
Okay.
So I would recommend, based on the special ballots, that might be a good option.
Okay, to go with special ballots rather than with and not to do an advance poll. Is that correct?
Yeah, although cost effective, advance poll is probably better, but
Okay.
for the turnout that you did have, it would be wise to look at that as an option.
Okay, thanks. You had provided some background through the request for decision, and it looks like you are asking for a series of decisions from council. So I'm prepared to move ahead with some of those. Your first recommendation was about the returning officer, and there is a requirement, of course, under the Local Authorities Election Act to provide a returning officer who has to be impartial and independent of people who are running for office, essentially meaning that nobody who's running for office could sit as, or potentially running for office, could sit as the returning officer as well. So the recommendation you have made is that the CAO, i.e. yourself, be the returning officer. Do you see what's happened in the past in terms of returning officers for Summer Village, in terms of who's acted as the RO?
In the past, we had a resident who would do all of this for us. We checked and we're not able to do it this time. So based on the legislation, and because we're such a small office unit, it leaves us with quite a short time frame to look for anybody, and other than that person that we have used before, who was not able to.
Okay. And what about, while there's a decision here about appointing the CAO as RO, there's also a requirement, I believe, for a deputy returning officer as well?
Yes, and that's why, well, you have to have your deputy returning officer, and you should have 2 others.
And sorry, what do you mean by 2 others?
Because when we go to run the election, we should always have 2 people at a table, always in consistency, so that you don't leave anybody unattended. So there's always 2 people at the table, which creates better perception, unbiased, and it's a better procedure.
Okay. I also believe that individual candidates can ask a scrutineer to participate as well. Is that correct?
Correct. And some elections that I have been the returning officer for in other municipalities, yes, there have been scrutineers and they have filled out forms.
Okay, so are the scrutineer forms part of a nomination package then?
That is part of the nomination package. When they drop off their forms, they can ask for those. Yes.
Okay, thanks. All right, so under the request for decision, first of all, there are the appointments of the RO and deputy RO. You're looking also then for dates, locations, budget, all of those sorts of things. So I'll just go through that in order for procedure purposes. There is a recommendation from administration that council appoint Melissa Beebe as returning officer for the 2024 by-election. So as council, I will make that make that motion, and as council, I will also pass that motion with the note that members, just a note that candidates can provide a scrutineer if they are interested, and it's perfectly within their rights to do so. I wonder, Madam CAO, if we ought to have a motion about the appointment of the deputy returning officer as well. Do you have a?
I would agree with that.
Okay, thank you. Council then will make a motion to appoint Aaron. And Aaron, I'm sorry, I don't remember your last name off the top of my head.
Weinzel.
That. Okay, we'll appoint. Council makes a recommendation to appoint Aaron Weinzel as deputy returning officer for the 2024 by-election. Is there any other discussion on that? Ms. Weinzel, is you okay with that? Does that work for you?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further debate, council will pass that motion as well. The next recommendation was about dates, and my understanding is the dates that you have suggested, Madam CAO, are in alignment with the requirement for the from the Local Authorities Election Act as well. So setting the nomination date of September the 14th then cascades into other dates as well. Is that correct?
Correct. It provides that 4-week and then the 2 weeks to advertise. So I've got everything calculated in there.
Okay, thank you. Before we move on, is Municipal Affairs okay with this? Do you know? No, I don't know why they wouldn't be, but has anybody communicated with them?
I have not talked to them in regards to these dates yet. I was following the Elections Act and following exactly their timeframes.
Great, thank you. I'm pretty sure if Municipal Affairs has a concern, they will let us know. With that in mind, then, council will make a motion to set the nomination date of September 14th, 2024 from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Nominations will take place at the municipal office where you are now. Any other discussion on that? All right, seeing none, council has made the motion and will pass that motion as well. The fourth item for consideration then is the election date itself. Following the guidelines required in the Act for nomination periods for election periods, that then pushes the election date to October the 12th. The proposal from administration is to have the by-election held from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. So 11 hours, so sorry, 9 hours, sorry, at the White Sands Multiplex on October 12th. Any further comment on that, Madam CAO?
No, we've already checked on creating the ballots, if we were required, what the time frame is, so we are well ready.
Okay, thank you. That being the case, council has made that motion, and council approves that motion too. So October 12th will be the by-election date. Caveat to that, of course, is dependent on the number of nominations that are received. That there are 2 openings. If there are more than 2 nominations which are made and not rescinded and people who are eligible, then there will be an election on October 12th. If there aren't enough if there aren't enough candidates, or if there are 2 or fewer candidates, there would be no requirement for the election to proceed. On that date, we would close shortly after September 14th. Item number 5 is around budget. Madam CAO, you have suggested that you would provide the Summer Village would budget $5,000 from general reserves to pay for the by-election. This is not a budgeted item, which is why it is coming forward to council this time. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the budget. What would they, just out of curiosity, what would the budget be for a general election? Because that's coming up in a year too. Approximately, it doesn't matter detail wise.
Previous general election cost was about 6,000, and this by-election cost about 40. Previous by-election cost about 4,500. So I wanted to make sure we had the room.
All right, so that's where that 5,000 came from then.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, should it be $5,000 or up to $5,000? What happens if we go over? Do you think there's any possibility of that?
No, I
No.
think we're okay.
All right. Then if would it work with you if we made the budget up to $5,000 rather than 5,000 exactly?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Council then will make the motion to budget up to $5,000 to pay for the by-election, the funds to come from general reserves. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, council has made the motion. I, as council, will approve the motion as well. The last item here is around the non-typical type of processes, advance votes, special ballots, all of those sorts of things. You have provided several options. One is an advance vote. Two options are around advance votes based on various dates. One is around special ballots. You had made a comment earlier today that you think the idea of going with special ballots with no advance vote is the one that's going to get us the best response rate. Do you still agree with that?
I do, between cost effectiveness and time constraints that were in this, and we've double checked and we've already figured out that there's 500. Well, there was 501 properties with double, even if they had two residents registered on them, two different property owners on one property. By the time we took off our municipal reserves, it's owned by the municipality, we have about 454 mail outs, so that would cost us about $450 odd for the mail out. Plus, we would still do the Facebook, we're still gonna do the newsletter, so I think we can cover things a lot more.
Okay. So would you like the motion then that before I make it that that council approves the idea of the special ballot, the direction of special ballot as recommended by the CAO? Would that work for you?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Recognizing that there may be some tweaks that need to be made in terms of process, council will make the recommendation to proceed with a special ballot to augment the October 12th by-election. Does that work? Does that give you the direction you need? Okay, thanks. Council then will make that motion and council will approve the motion. To the best of my knowledge then, Madam CAO, is that all we had in terms of items around the by-election?
Yes, and we are ready to do the mail out tomorrow, now that this is approved.
Okay, thank you. That's the last item we have on item 7 in our agenda, which is business. We have an item 8, which is council reports. Since council does not have quorum, there are not any reports from either former members of council or the mayor in abeyance, who takes on the role of being a public member until council is reconstituted. Something I did.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, certainly.
may I interrupt? We
Please do.
missed 7.2 addition.
I did. I was just looking at the original agenda. You're right, of course. Thank you. Thank you, Madam CAO. Item 7.2 was local LGFF grants. There were 2 grants that were provided to you. And since these did not make it as part of the agenda package, Madam CAO, would you be able to just give a very high-level overview of the operating and capital grant requests, so at least it's on the record?
Yes, so as of this year, we now have what is used to be the MSI has been changed to the local government fiscal framework, and they have now provided us our memorandum of agreement, which is a mandatory thing that we do when there's a change in a grant that's provided by the provincial government. And this is, they've sent us our documents. So we have one memorandum of agreement, which is for the capital components. And the other memorandum of agreement is for the operating components of the grant. And if we don't get these signed off and sent in, we would not receive our 2024 payments.
Thank you. Are you able to tell me what the amount of the grant would be?
I don't have it right in front of me. Can you give me a second?
Sure, if you do
Pull
that.
up.
Again, just for the record, because it wasn't part of the agenda package.
The operating portion would be roughly, I think it's about 50 to 50,000.
Okay,
What we did.
And then the capital one, I think is 72, but I'd have to verify.
all right. It's in the agreement though. Am I right?
I don't think it has this, because it changes every year.
Okay,
It would be listed on the municipal government capital grant site, what the allocations are per municipality.
all right. So if anybody's interested in finding any of this out, it'll be on the Alberta Municipal Affairs website.
Yeah,
Okay.
under the grant allocation.
Under the local government fiscal framework operating program. Okay, thank you.
Correct.
So, what do you need from me in terms of a resolution or a motion on this, Madam CAO?
I would be recommending that council does a motion to approve signing the memorandum of agreement for the local government fiscal framework for the capital and operating components.
Okay, thank you. I'll actually split those if that's okay with you. That we'll do a motion, make a motion at the moment to approve the signature of the LGFF operating grant agreement. And with that on the table, council will make that motion and then council will approve that motion as well. The second motion then would be to approve the signature of the LGFF capital agreement. If I've got them both, one should be operating, one should be capital. And with that in mind, then council has made that resolution and council passes it as well. So your council, the official administrator on behalf of council then can sign those off and provide them back to municipal affairs. Is that what you needed?
Yes, so I will await your signature and then I will sign off after I receive yours.
Thank you. And the minister I noticed has already signed.
Correct.
Thank you. Now, thank you for that interruption. We will move on into item 8, which is council reports. So there aren't any, as I mentioned. We move on into the CAO report, and to the best of my knowledge, as part of the CAO report, which was provided as part of the agenda package, this is for information rather than there may be a resolution required to receive, but there is no approval that is required. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there anything as part of the CAO action list, for example, that you wanted to point out at all? I don't want to put you on the spot. There may not be, but there may be.
Yes, actually on the action list, I would like to point out about the motion that had the wetland assessment for Pond 4 and preliminary survey of Pond 4. So that has been completed. That also was applied for as a addition to the stormwater management plan as council had requested. And it's completed, submitted to the property owner, and we have a copy for our future files for any other properties that may get affected by this pond.
Okay.
And they're proceeding with their development.
Thank you. I noticed that there are still 3 items ongoing on that list, all of which are noted as no quorum. Does that mean that these will come back once council has reachieved its quorum? So October or November?
Yes. Yes, because they are meetings and we have the golf carts, OHVs, and since there's the new pilot project legislation, there should be some discussions on it.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you foresee any action required of council between now and by-election on any of these?
Not at this time, no.
All right. Thank you. All right. So council will make a motion then to receive the CAO action list and receive the CAO report. And so I'll omnibus those 2 together and council will receive the CAO reports and council will approve that as well.
Okay, I do have a verbal CAO report. Did you
Oh,
want
certainly.
to-
I apologize. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So I thought I would provide a 2024 capital update. So the municipal office site works budget that was approved at 40,000. The skirting installation has that's been awarded. That's at a budget cost of $6,400. The piling installation is going to be starting second week of September. That's at 16,000, and the utility connections for the site, for the new building as it gets placed, that has gone out, and I'm just awaiting the results of that to the two local contractors within the municipal area. Chuck box gravel sander that was approved in the capital budget, 1.5 yard with installation. The price is $11,250, and the unit has been ordered. The UTV mini truck, we're working on that. Most of it is private sales. We require check payments, so we have decided to wait on that and looking at dealership options for ongoing. August 20th, I met with the engineers and ATCO for the Front Street widening project that was approved in the 2024 capital budget. And we just figured out the road width on Front Street between the two hills is only 4.5 meters. So it's going to be widened to six meters of road section. There's approximately 80 meters of road that will be completed. Engineering estimates received for option 1 minor grade change is 127,000, but we don't have the bid numbers in yet. Option 2 retaining wall, what came in more at 204,000. Which is much higher than the approved budget of 100,000, which is coming out of the CCBF unspent allocation amounts over the last 6 years of 105,717. The utility relocations will begin middle of September, and we're still awaiting the bids for contractors prior to being able to award it. If the prices come in way above the budgeted amount, then that may have to come back.
Okay.
Basketball hoop installation will be completed this fall. We have 2 hoops, and one of them will be going down to Jack's Pond to replace the one that broke in the windstorm, so there's a hazard there. Shoreline management plan, the aquatic shoreline assessment and the wildlife sweep was completed on the weekend of July 22nd by our CPP environmental and MPS contractors. And they'll provide guidance for policy bylaws, recreational leases along the lake.
Thank you.
And we have maintenance updates if you wanted to know, but we're continuing on with maintenance within the Summer Village.
Thank you. Does the Summer Village track resident comments or questions? Is there, in the same way there's a CAO action list, is there anything similar around what residents are asking about or businesses?
I get a lot of emails, so I can track that. I just kind of write in it more or less. I have provided council with some of the issues that have popped up and how we should deal with maybe some bylaws or policies that they need to look at. So I have about 10 that I have listed that need to be kind of checked into and seeing how to make things better to alleviate some of the concerns. Yes.
And my question to that effect as council is more out of interest of council knowing what the residents are asking about or saying, and also being able to track themes if there are themes that emerge through the course of a season.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I agree.
I certainly wouldn't propose any policy direction on that. I would leave that up to the new council if they decide that they wanted to do anything with it, with an acknowledgement that council's job is governance, not the day-to-day service delivery or administration, but they are still the names and faces of the community, so they're still the ones who are going to get a lot of the questions, I expect.
Yes. And we do also have a written complaint form also.
Okay. Do you have a written kudos form too?
No. Any kudos is fantastic.
Yeah, fair enough. Thanks. Okay, so anything else on the verbal report, Madam CAO?
Just that maintenance, we've been doing the beach maintenance, extreme low level water, so we've been taking some of the debris that kind of has been showing up on the lake bed that's human caused, so we've got that all cleaned up. Vegetation pile removal, if there's any on the beach, that's continually being done weekly. any the grass trimming and harrowing, that's all being done. Road right-of-ways are being vegetation management to make things a lot safer and open up views. Washroom vandalism we had at Beach Access 4, that's been repaired. We'll budget to take a look at the rest of the 9 outhouses moving forward for 2025 on any repair issues that we should be looking at. Licensing and permitting, we completed to install a fuel tank for the shop so that maybe we can reduce having to run to Stettler and fuel up vehicles. Drainage culvert inspections is going to be worked on this fall, and we're going to do an inventory for replacement requirements and any budget items that may be required. Hall maintenance, we're working on some of that stuff. We've got window screen replacements is going to be done, and pressure washing of the outside of the hall to make it look tidier. And we are going to look at how to clean the furnace venting because it seems to have a lot of debris.
Thanks.
Otherwise, development permits to date, we have 14, and RV permits to date, we have 88.
Okay. And are those something that is required council to approve permits, or is it done by policy by law?
For which?
You talked about RV permits and things like that. Presumably that is location of RVs.
That RV permits is part of the land use bylaw,
Okay,
and so we collect a revenue on that.
right. Fair enough. Okay. Anything else?
No, I'm done.
I have a couple of questions just based on some of the things that I've encountered over the last little while. And that is,
Okay.
in terms of ongoing maintenance, how is that budgeted, not even budgeted, how is that planned or scheduled? Because I can see some things have to happen in a particular order in order for them to be done properly or efficiently or not have to be redone at some point. Is that order considered as you move throughout whatever the season happens to be, first things first sort of thing?
Yes, like we're just, I think yesterday they were just winding up on doing another grass cutting. And that's kind of slowing down.
Mhm.
The beach washrooms, we have 9 accesses with beach washrooms.
Okay.
And those already are starting to do the fall prep. We have to get a septic truck in, and those are being cleaned up. Other than the continual daily cleanup, but we are prepping those also to get ready for the fall.
I see. Thanks. I have another question about fuel. Do you keep on-site fuel? Does Summer Village have on-site fuel?
We haven't, but we did have a tank, and to be able to set up the tank, and with the municipal office moving out there, we needed to apply for a permit to be able to set that up. There were 2 tanks out there that were just sitting there, but they weren't being used. One is legal, the other one is not legal.
Okay. With that in mind, then, is security ever an issue? Just making sure that people who aren't supposed to be fueling up at using Summer Village resources aren't doing that?
That is also part of completing the permit process, and I will be looking at how it will affect the budgets to be able to fence and secure it off.
Okay. Thanks. Perception can be important here as well, I recognize.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Is there anything else as part of your verbal report?
No.
Okay, thank you.
We covered it.
I will
Thanks.
make a motion then, or council will make a motion to receive the CAO's verbal report. And to the secretary, we'll split these two, the resolutions or the 2 motions into receiving the action list, which was the first one. This one now is receiving the verbal report, to receive the verbal report, and council will approve that as well. Madam Secretary, does that work for you?
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry, did I miss something?
We just had someone come in to pay bills, so can we stop for a second?
Council will make a motion for a 5-minute recess. Will that work?
Thank you.
Okay, we'll come back 10 minutes after the hour.
Perfect. Thanks.
You okay?
Yes, I'm just gonna break the first motion and then your 5-minute motion, so.
It's good. Are you okay?
Melissa, do you need any more time? You're muted.
There we go. Now you can talk.
We're good, sorry.
You're good?
Yes, sorry about that.
Not at all. Business happens. Okay, we will call the meeting back to order then. It is 10:08. we had just finished up with the item 9, which is the CAO's report, and we're moving on now into item 10, which is financials. I believe there are 5 items here. The list of revenue and expenditures for council for July 30 up to July 31st, the capital revenue and expenditures to the same date, the check listing at trial balance, and also the bank reconciliation, which was an emergent issue that was added to this. What is the Summer Village's typical practice on this? Because looking at this, it looks like more of a receive than anything else, receive for information rather than any action is required. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And just to bring you up to date on the Summer Village of White Sands capital component, at this point in time, we haven't fully got anywhere up to date with the new capital projects and expenditures yet, because they're just moving into that. So by next meeting, that will be updated.
Thank you. If I was to look then, or if council was to look through the revenue and expenditures, which is item 10.1,
Yep.
is there anything on that list of that is a particular note that you would like to point out?
Yeah, the particular note is, since we changed how we do the staffing wages reporting, so we're allocating to the proper categories, you will see that anything that's under the culture is because whatever we do within the hall or items that are related to the hall is now being budgeted the time there, so it is an increase.
Thank you. Are the budget items, the 2024 budget category, is that total, or is that, sorry, is that total year, or is that year to date budget? Is that purport 112?
For which one again?
So if I'm looking at on my PDF, I'm looking at page 11, which is the Summer Village. It looks like the is it capital?
Yep.
Okay. On that, just the 3 columns across are budget, actual, and variance.
Yes.
The budget, is that year-to-date budget a proportion of the year to the, or is it total annual budget?
It's the year to date, which would be the total annual budget, actually. So the capital revenue, that would be the total actual revenue. And then the capital expenditures would be to the date of what's put in at that point in time.
Okay. The reason I bring it up is I think from a governance perspective, my interest is in variance rather than total numbers. And so looking for items which are standing out either as underspend or overspend based on where they ought to be in terms of variance. And I also recognize that there are some things, property taxes, for example, or grants, which only come in at through a short period of the year, so they will show a variance that nets out towards the end of the year. Is that correct?
Correct. And that's also where, if you look, there is only a couple of items that are over
the
variance, and that is because they were either change of how we're allocating or the situation of bylaw enforcement. We had a situation that took us over the budget.
Okay.
Otherwise, everything else is running probably under, being so close to September in the budget.
All right. Thank you. A quick note, would there be for future agenda packages, would it be possible in the PDF to put a page number at the bottom of each page of PDF?
Yes, that normally is done. It was forgotten this time. My apologies.
Figures the new guy would notice that. All right, thank you. So if I'm moving through my financial report, I'm looking at the check listing. And a question from a governance perspective, again, is it typical practice for the Summer Village to look at actual check listings as a council thing? Because to me, that strikes me as more of an administrative role.
You are correct, because these are budgeted items. These are not anything that's excessive or higher than a certain amount, I need to bring it to council for authorization based on the policies. Otherwise, most of this stuff is your general basic operating checks that we have to submit out,
Right.
but this is what council has the procedures of when I got here, this is what they've always had. There's no policy in place though for this.
It might be something for the new council to consider then. Well, out of, again, curiosity, if council wanted more detail on a particular check or questioned a particular check, does that ever happen?
Yes, and I have pulled that for the next meeting and bring them a breakdown of that certain section, like community services. They wanted to know the breakdown of what actually was spent and the cost. That can be done.
Probably something for council to the new council to consider in terms of a policy for sure. Trying to balance their role, the governance role versus administration's role on that.
Yeah, and just to be aware that the check signing, it is one is elected official and one is the administrator, so there's
Right.
always two to sign.
Okay, thank you. The next section is around the tax trial balance. Is there anything here that is of action required by council?
No, this is just to be aware that this is all we have for outstanding unpaid taxes at this time, which is actually pretty reasonable for such a small community.
Thank you. And none of it looks like it's extended up beyond the first year. It's all current. Well, this year.
Correct.
There's nobody in arrears nobody in arrears really.
No tax sale notification stuff at all.
Okay, thank you. The last item on the finance is the bank reconciliation for July, item 10.5. We haven't got it here in front of us. What do you need us to do with it? Is this just to say that everything balances back to zero?
Yes, and showing you what we have created in the bank accounts, how much we have invested, and what we have put into a high interest savings account. It's just how we're balancing the money
Okay.
in relation to the budget.
And is there a policy associated with that as well, in particular in terms of investments?
Council did a resolution that they wanted the municipality to, with the high interest rates, to check on moving into a higher interest savings account, which the municipality did. And if at the end of the money market account is the high interest one, and you will see that's the one that's collecting the most interest to provide more revenue based on the grants and everything that we have in place, which is in the GICs.
Okay, so it's low risk. That's kind of what I'm getting.
Correct.
All right, thank you. If I look at the financial section as a whole, is there anything in here that you think it's important that council knows about, or that those members of the gallery, whether they're in person or watching, know about?
I think that looking at all the bank rec and everything, we are in a financially stable situation at this point in time. And the grants that we have, that's restricted grant funds, which is unused funds, which we will be using this year. Everything is going as per legislation and requirements.
Okay, thank you. Just a question to the clerk then, with the items 1 through 10.1 through 10.5, would you prefer these to be handled as a single motion for receiving, or would you prefer them to be individual? I'm okay either way.
No, all can be done in one motion.
All right, thank you. Council will make the motion then to receive items 10.1 through 10.5 for information. And council will then approve that motion as well. If we move on into section 11, which is again for information, just correspondence, the funding letter is there. The resignation letters from the 2 members of council are included for the record. The appointment of the official administrator, me, the ministerial order is included as well, again for the record. And then the provincial crime statistics are there too, if anybody is interested in having a look at those. Is there anything, Madam CAO, that you would see of note here that typically we would just receive these for information, but is there anything you wanted to point out on any of these?
No, I feel most this stuff is very explanatory as presented.
The last item on the RCMP crime statistics, does anybody from the RCMP or detachment commander come and speak to council at all, or is it often just done by correspondence?
Normally, I would have him attend as a delegation, which we had previous back in May.
March.
Okay,
Okay, we had him attend. Normally, I would prefer to have him quarterly or every. But at this point in time, I thought this would be enough for now.
okay. Would there be the desire then to get back on track once council has reconstituted? In terms
Yes,
of in person?
yes,
So this is a bit of a one-off anomaly just because of the situation then with council.
correct.
Okay, I think it's important that our policing services are responsive to the people they are policing. So I think it's a really good idea to have a member to respond to council questions. Thanks. Thank you for the note on correspondence then to the clerk. I will make an omnibus motion here to receive items 11.1 through 11.4 for information. And council will also pass that resolution. The second last item is any in camera. Madam CAO, is there any business to be discussed in camera or in closed session today?
None.
Thank you very much. We have gone through the business of the agenda package. CAO, is there anything that we missed or needed to discuss that we did not discuss?
No.
Okay.
Everything has been discussed. Thank you.
Thank you. Then council makes the motion to adjourn the meeting at whatever time it is right now at 10:20. And we stand adjourned. Council approves that motion. Thank you, everybody, for attending both in person and online. And we will reconvene at the next meeting of council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mm.